Hello students, welcome to Vivid Botany. We have a question here from morphology about the root system. Before getting into the question, we should know some basic facts about the embryo, root and stem. When we know that inside the embryo, for example, let us see the embryo. The embryo contains embryonal axis. This embryonal axis contains two parts. One is plumule and the other is the radicle. The plumule is said to be the first shoot from which the whole shoot system arises. A radicle is said to be the first root from which the whole root system arises. So plumule gives rise to the shoot system. Radicle gives rise to the root system. Now, any part of the plant, if doesn't arise from its original part, that is said to be adventitious. For example, let's take here the root. The root is supposed to arise from the radicle. The root, if does not arise from radicle, the root if arises from other than radicle, the root if arises from other than radicle, such roots are called as adventitious roots. For example, let us see the buds. What is bud? The bud is condensed part of the stem. So the bud contains apical meristem enclosed by overlapping leaf primordia. So these buds are positionally two types: apical bud, lateral bud. Apical bud present at apices called terminal bud. Lateral buds are present at axils called axillary buds. If any bud arises other than apices and axils, such buds are called adventitious buds. For example, in bryophyllum, buds arise from margins of the leaves. They are called adventitious buds. These buds are helpful in vegetative propagation of that plant. So it's also called reproductive leaf. It's called adventitious buds. It's called epiphyllous bud. It's called reproductive leaves. The whole leaf will contain so many buds that are useful in vegetative propagation. Similarly, if any root arises from other than radicle, such roots are called adventitious roots. Many examples I can give you for adventitious roots, but we should know what happens in case of the monocot plant. In monocot plant, the radicle is short-lived. Monocot means grasses, poaceae members, like we have the Oryza sativa, wheat, Triticum aestivum, Triticum vulgare, bajra, jowar, maize, oats, barley. In all these monocots, radicle is short-lived. Short-lived means it cannot live for a long time. It will disintegrate, it will degenerate. So, soon after a disintegration of the radicle, many fiber-like roots arise from base of the stem. Those roots are called fibrous roots. So, soon after its disintegration, many fibrous roots arise from base of the main stem. See, for example, I'll draw the diagram here. Let us suppose this is the stem and these are the nodes. We know that in grasses the nodes are very conspicuous. They are clearly visible and they are apparent. And from these nodes, from this is the base ground, and from here many identical fiber like roots arise. So these roots are called as fibrous roots. The root system is called as fibrous root system. They do not penetrate much into the ground, but they are numerous in number and their anchorage, absorption of water from soil will be very high. So this is called as fibrous root system. This root system is also called as adventitious roots. They are adventitious because they do not arise from the radicle. So it's fibrous root system. They are called adventitious roots. It is found in monocots. Surprisingly, if you see the dicot, in dicot the radicle will elongate, will grow into the primary root. This is the primary root, or else we call it as the taproot also. It is nothing but the elongation of the radicle. So this primary root will give rise to the lateral roots. These lateral roots are acropetal in succession, oblique in position, and endogenous in origin. Let me reiterate, write it once again for the sake of clarity. See, this is the primary root, or we call it as taproot. Do remember the terms. They are called as lateral roots or secondary roots. I write here SEC, secondary roots. These lateral roots are acropetal in succession. Acropetal means they arise from base to apex. See, this part is called as root apex and this part is called as root base. It is surprising, but it is a fact. Why it is called apex? Because the root growth takes place here in this region. See, cells are added apex to base and root growth takes place base to apex. Right? It's correct that I am saying. I am not falsifying. So this is the direction of growth of the root system, and this is direction of addition of new cells, that is, new cells are added from apex to base and growth takes place from base to apex. Base to apex is called as acropetal, that is direction of growth, and addition of new cells is apex to base, so this is basipetal. So lateral roots arise from base to apex. How do you say they arise from base to apex? You see it very clearly that the older roots are present near the base. The older roots present near the base and young roots are present near the apex. So when young roots are present near the apex, it is very clear that the lateral roots are forming from base to apex, that is acropetal in succession. Endogenous in origin. Lateral roots are endogenous in origin. Endogenous means lateral roots arise from pericycle. If you see the dicot root TS, pericycle is outermost layer of the stele. So here from the pericycle the adventitious, the lateral roots arise. So lateral roots are called as endogenous in origin. They're oblique in position. Their position is oblique. Neither they are completely horizontal nor they are completely vertical. They are oblique in position. So lateral roots or secondary roots are acropetal in succession, endogenous in origin and oblique in position. Now these lateral roots again give rise to the tertiary roots which are called as tertiary roots or we call them as the rootlets. So remember the hierarchy. First primary root or tap root, next lateral root or secondary root, third rootlets are the tertiary roots. Like that, three types of roots are found on the dicot root. So in this dicot root, the tap root or the main root or the primary root is normal root because it is arising from the radicle, because it is an extension of radicle. So hope you have understood the difference between the monocot, fibrous root system, taproot, dicot, the taproot system. Right? And further we can see anatomically, morphologically in some other class when I deal with the morphology of the dicots and monocots. Now let's have a look at the question. The roots that originate from base of the main stem are, see, they are the roots that are arising from base of the main stem. They are fibrous roots. This is the answer for this question. Why they are called fibrous roots? Because they look like fibers. Why they are called adventitious roots? Because they are not arising from a radicle. So they are called fibrous root system and they are called adventitious root system. See the option 2, that is primary roots. Primary roots or tap roots are found in dicots. Nothing but it is extension of the radicle of embryonal axis. Lateral roots, fourth option. Lateral roots are secondary roots that arise from primary roots which are acropetal in succession, endogenous in origin, oblique in position. Why they are endogenous? Remember always, any part of the plant if arises from innermost tissue, that is called endogenous. For example, if you see the root nodules of leguminous plants, root nodules of leguminous plants arise from pericycle and cortex. So they are endogenous in origin. You see root hairs. Root hairs are emergences of the outer epidermis. So they are exogenous. Leaves. Leaves are exogenous. Prickles. Prickles are external emergences. So they are exogenous. Like that, any organ of the plant, as far as origin is concerned, it can be endogenous or it can be exogenous. So that is about the lateral roots. Then prop roots. Prop roots are also called pillar roots. You find them in banyan tree. Banyan tree lifespan is more than 300 years. It has to grow for 300 plus years. It has to sustain different kinds of biotic and abiotic stress. It has to sustain the seasonal variations, the cyclones, depressions, monsoons, high temperature, low temperature. So it has to be there for long time. For that, it has to have that mechanical support. Who will provide the mechanical support? The root system and shoot system. Main root, main shoot may not have that much. So what happens here? You see in the banyan root, this is the shoot system and this is the leaves. So what happens? From the branches, some branches arise, some roots arise, they grow positively geotropic manner and they are branched, they are fibrous like, they are adventitious. When they come in contact with the soil, the ground, they penetrate into soil and they become like pillar, provide extra mechanical support to that banyan tree. So these roots are called as prop roots or we call them as the pillar roots. Prop roots are also adventitious roots. Prop roots grow in positive geotropic manner. Prop roots look like fibers. Prop roots show secondary growth. Prop roots fix the plant in soil and provide extra mechanical support to the banyan tree. So that is about the prop roots or the pillar roots. Example that we find in banyan tree, that is Ficus elastica, Ficus bengalensis, Ficus bengalensis is the largest plant with the largest longevity. It is having more than 2500 years of longevity lifespan in plant kingdom. So that poses the prop roots or the pillar roots. So I think I have explained to some extent to you. It may be helpful to you. So the question is very simple. You should have a thorough knowledge on morphology, the root system and the shoot system. So answer is 1 here. And don't forget to subscribe my channel Vivid Botany. We are talking from Vivid Botany. You can post questions to my website. You can post questions to my mail ID also. I will be answering to all your questions. So thank you very much.